Today we're going to start working on this green CJ2. The biggest job and the first thing we want to do is start with the complete new wiring harness. So the owner got me a nice Wilks complete harness. So this is everything from the headlights to the taillights. Get rid of all that cobbled up 75 years of Scotch blocks and wire nuts and all that mess. This Jeep is not charging right now, and it draws the battery down overnight, and I couldn't get any of the lights to work, so it's going to make things so much easier. Before I do anything where you're disassembling stuff, especially with wiring, I get out my phone and I take pictures of everything, detailed pictures of anything that's not right or that I might be confused on later. So the way the stuff coming through the firewall is laid out, and not because I'm going to replicate it, but because if I get something like, oh man, what is this wire, or where is this terminal going to, things like that, that I can come back and reference those photos. So that'll be, under the firewall here, as well as, firewall on the engine compartment side and underneath. So I'll get a flashlight out behind the gauges and take a couple photos, how the ignition's hooked up, everything. I probably won't need it, but it's so nice to be able to go back and find stuff. And like I said, that goes for mechanical stuff as well. So it's just a lot easier to take stuff apart, especially because Google doesn't help you much if you're trying to figure out what Bubba did before you were born, because it's not going to be the same as everybody else that's posted pictures online. So I'm going to take a bunch of pictures, tag and write down anything that I feel needs noted, and then we're going to strip the harness out of this. These Jeeps are very basic as far as the wiring goes, so it's not going to take too long, and then we'll try to do a really neat, clean job putting it back together. So let's do it. Well, we got the old harness completely pulled out. I didn't record the whole thing because there's really no particular way you have to do it. When you're replacing the entire harness, that's the best way and the easiest way because you don't have to save anything. So like I said, take pictures of anything specific you want to know how it's hooked up. But we're taking this Jeep back to completely original. So any of the accessories and weird added things the other owner did are being eliminated. So it just cracks me up. This isn't even the worst. It's just how funny people are about wiring. I mean, there's like probably 6 rolls of electrical tape, and whoever made this is a homemade harness. There's not an inch of original wiring in this Jeep. And this was my favorite part. This is the wire that went from the firewall to the tail lights. It is an extension cord. So there's like 15 feet of extension cord, and they didn't even cut to length. It was kind of just wrapped around stuff. And the back where the taillights are to connect the two together was 12-2 like interior outlet wiring. So that was fun. There also, one thing, I have yet to see an old Jeep that doesn't have one of these in it, a wire nut. Public service announcement. They don't belong in any kind of vehicle. I don't even like using them in a house, so keep them out of your vehicle. This is another part of the beauty. Look at that electrical tape job, and you can see the extension cord in there. They have some sort of modern waterproof plug wired in for the turn signals, which this Jeep never would have had. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. We got to get all new switches and controls. It had a heater wired in too with this strange little switch. Yeah, so lots of fun. So we're going to finish stripping it all back out to bare bones and then start threading in the new harness. It should go pretty smooth because we're just starting from scratch, and it's such a simple vehicle that it really takes all the complicated difficulties wiring often brings on a newer vehicle out of the picture. So I'm gonna take a lunch break and get started.
Oh, one other thing. I couldn't just go in and hack all the wires because the oil pressure line and the temperature gauge, which is like a thermocouple, it's like a capillary tube, I guess you'd call it. They had that all wrapped into this harness and electrical tape. So I had to carefully strip back areas or just cut the tape. So I couldn't just hack it and pull it through. So that was really frustrating. So think about those things when you're building, not necessarily for the future owner, but for yourself. If you ever have to diagnose and work on something, don't do stuff like that. Make it a separate circuit, you know, get clips and put it up against the firewall. Just try to keep it neat. It'll look better, and if it ever breaks down out in the middle of the woods or at night, it's going to be a whole lot easier to diagnose or repair out in the woods. So take your time, plan things out, do better.
We are slowly making progress. Just fishing the new wires through, so working on the headlights. So they have nice new plugs. Just keep everything loose. I don't band anything or clip anything until I know it's all where it needs to be. So you have a harness splice. They call this the main harness. This is the headlight harness. And then over there you have the rear harness, which on these vehicles is so simple. It just goes to the two rear tail lights. Up here is where it gets a little more confusing. So you have your high beam switch. So this goes on the floor inside, and you have a wire for your horn. If your vehicle is stock, this is pretty straightforward because everything should line up pretty close. I also have my Jeep over there, which has this same harness, but since it's got a diesel swap, certain things are not correct because I obviously don't have a coil and a distributor, so that stuff is completely different. But everything is laid out and it's pretty minimalist, so it's not too bad. This Jeep does have an alternator conversion, so I don't have that big voltage regulator here that you would have on a normal stock Cj2A. You will find very quickly where this harness shines, it falls flat on the instructions. I do not know why they don't update these with just a normal wire diagram. Do better, Walks. It has a handwritten stuff that's hard to read and very poorly laid out. And I get it, these are pretty simple, most people should be able to figure it out. But just a couple pictures or just a standard harness is a big help. This lays out the way a dash should look. It gives you the, I think it's the G5 or the Ron Fitzpatrick manual or parts catalog has a really good wiring diagram. So I'm probably gonna go over that to make sure I have everything right, because these just silly. So my suggestion is just break it down, do one wire at a time. Once you know you have it where it's supposed to be, then move on to the next one. Don't look at like, oh, I got all these, where do they go? Just start with the ones you know. So like it's easy to know this one is for the horn, so hook that one up, and then move to, you know, whatever, however your brain works. But just don't look big picture when you do this. Just do one wire at a time, and then you won't go crazy. So we're gonna keep chipping away at it. I'm gonna get this side of it done, and then move into the cab, which is definitely the more involved part because you have the ignition switch, lights, and gauges, and all that. So we're still chipping away, one wire at a time. If you're redoing your wiring on one of these old Jeeps, I highly recommend Willys 4-wheel drive. If you Google them, they're out of Pennsylvania. The harnesses they make are OEM quality with fabric braided lines. So none of your modern aftermarket harnesses are going to come close to how both accurate and good quality all the connectors, and these just really hold up well and look really good on an old Jeep.